Good morning, everybody. So today we are going to talk about something that is very cool. We are going to talk about webhook handling. So let's get started. All right. So what is the problem that we are trying to solve? Well, in every single application, you have some sort of webhooks. For example, you have Stripe that is calling you whenever there is an update. You have SendGrid notifying you of the status of the email that you have just sent. There's plenty of examples like that, right? Maybe there is an alert that you're getting from some third party. All right, so this would be like a normal, like a very basic example of how webhooks usually work. There is just a third party that's hitting your app, and there is some other third party that's hitting your app. Now, what would happen? Let's say if your app went down. So now, if your app out of the question, what will the third party do? If the third party is handling webhooks properly, there will be some time in which they will retry to post the data again until the server acknowledges that. But we don't know, first of all, whether or not they implement proper solution. We don't know what's the time in which they will retry. And most importantly, we don't know how often they will retry. And this is especially important, let's say for Stripe. So if your app goes down for 5 minutes and there is a customer who just, paid for your subscription, they don't have access to anything. Well, that's not really good. And we need a better way to handle that. What if between our third parties and our app, there was some always working relay or something like that? And that relay would always accept the payload and keep that locally. And your app would just communicate with the relay whenever there is a chance, whenever both of these are online. Well, basically, whenever your app is online. And this way, even if your app goes down, you're still gathering all of the information about the webhooks. That seems fun, doesn't it? Well, let me show you how to implement that. Well, basically, we would have a Lambda function that would accept our payload from our third party. Then it would send that to SQS and put that in a queue. And then our Laravel application will be able to read that job and execute it. Okay, so let's build that. In order to do that and to have some help, I will use this great package by Aaron Francis called Sidecar. And it basically allows us to easily deploy our Lambda functions and execute them in Laravel applications. So let's get it installed. Okay, so now that it has been installed, we'll need to configure that. But before that, let me quickly show you what it does. So we can copy that. And inside of our app, the author recommends us to create a new directory called Sidecar. I'll probably just call it Lambdas. And inside of here, we'll create a new Stripe handler. Let me just paste that. Let's import this class. Declare return types. And now inside of our resources, we can create a new directory called Lambda. Maybe let's rename that as well. Lambda. And we'll create Stripe.js. Let's add an export here and then adjust this to Stripe.handler. All right. So after we configure everything, we'll be able to use this function to deploy it to AWS. But as of now, we have not yet configured our connection details. So we can go to the documentation page, and here we can go to installation. And after we execute this command, it will publish a config file. So we can use the sidecar configure to go through everything we need. I will skip this step for security reasons. But after all of that is completed, we can go to our sidecar.php, and inside of here, we need to register our functions. So that would be our Stripe handler. So let us deploy that. Get another error. Lambda is neither a file nor a directory. Yeah, let's just move that to top level. And now it should be good. Right. So now if we go to our Lambda configuration on our AWS account, we can see that our Lambda has been created. So this is great. Now, there is one thing that this package won't do for us, and that's understandable because like I'm just using a side effect of this package just for like an easy deployment. But it won't create, as far as I'm aware, a function URL for us. So I will just create that manually and just set it out to nothing and then save it. And now I will copy that URL because it will be important for us later once we need to send that to our third-party provider like Stripe, right? We'll need to provide this URL for them. So that's why we need that URL. So normally you would, go to like your services.php, and inside of here you would do something like Lambda Stripe URL, and here you do Lambda Stripe handler URL or something like that. Then you can just reference that. But yeah, this is great, and it seems to be working just fine. So now what we need to do is basically create our handler. And we have already established that we'll need some external packages because we'll need to interact with SQS and to push the job. So we can go to our Lambda, and inside of here we can do npm install AWS SDK clients US, and I'll just enable node support. We have a nicer highlighting. And now we should be able to import SQS from, wire AWS client. And we can establish the connection let SQS equals new SQS. And we just need to specify the region as far as I know, because AWS will like automatically know that you're using that. And because of that, it will inject your credentials. So instead of hard coding the region here, we'll just do process.env that is region. And inside of here, what we can do is we can create a public function variables, and these will export whatever we type in here to our Lambda configuration. So our SQS region will be, for example, our SQS region from our config file, which I will change in my env. So let's go back to our handler. So the way we want it to work is basically, we'll have some body, and if event is not null and event is not undefined, then we can do something like body equals json.parse json.stringify event. This is because the event is sent as a text that's like not even prepared for JSON, which is pretty weird. But I'm not a Lambda expert. I'm sure there is a way to tackle that a bit better. So if there is no body, we can simply return status code of 244 422. And now we'll need to return, status code of 200 when everything is all right. And inside of here, we'll need to do some try catch. Now let's do error and error. We can do so error. And we'll just return, status code of 500. And inside of here, we'll do await SQS and message. And here we need to provide some parameters. SQS params. And our SQS params will be params equal QURL. That would be process.env.QURL. It will specify that in a second. And then a message body. We'll get to that in a second. Well, we need like some sort of data, and here would pass our body. I'll get to this in just a second. And we need to stringify that as well. And now it seems to be correct. So in my container, I'll just redeploy that Lambda. This package under the hood will see that there is already this function that exists. And because of that, it will not create a duplicate. It will just update the existing version. However, that will fail. Simply because we have not... I mean, well, two things, right? First of all, we said that we'll define this QURL, but we never did. Let's do QURL, and it will be our services lambda stripe queue name. Well, let's go there. Let's go to services, and we can do queue name, and this will be like SQS prefix and lambda stripe handler queue. Let's copy these two, and I will define them in B. So SQS prefix will be dependent on your account. But this is basically SQS.region.Amazon AWS, then your account name. And our queue will be, let's create it first. This should be, and because Laravel does not work properly with FIFO, as far as I know, we'll have to use standard. And let's just name it Stripe. And this is important because this is basically, the message will stay in queue for 4 days. So if your app goes down for 4 days, you're still able to receive those payloads after that. I know that there are some packages that try to handle FIFO, but this is kind of outside of the scope of this lesson. So we'll just name it Stripe, and okay, everything's okay. Let's create that queue. And here you'll have your prefix. That's what I mentioned before. And then you'll have your queue name, which is Stripe. So let's go to our Lambda. And let's just run a test to see. We need to redeploy that first. Now let's run a test. And we'll get to 200. And let me just open this in another tab. I go to SQS. You can see that there is one message available. That's great. That's exactly what we want. Now the part of communication between Lambda and our SQS is done. So now we'll need to get that SQS job from that queue and execute that in Laravel. The problem is that by default, it won't really work because Laravel expects a certain format of those messages. So how do we overcome that? Well, there's this great package that was not working for me. So I created my own version. You're probably supposed to use this one. Honestly, it's not very actively maintained, but I've created my own version, which, I suck at open source. So look here. I have no clue what I'm doing. But yeah, this kind of works. So yeah, we can use it for now. The dependencies are also untrue, but I'm trying to do my best. At some point, I will spend more time on that. I'm busy right now. Either way, we can install the package, and what it will do for us is it will create jobs based on any payloads that you have in SQS. So this is really useful for something like that. And my version of the package, by the way, only works with Laravel 10+. So you should probably use the other one if you have something else. But it works the same. We'll need to do a vendor publish. And it will be number 9 for me. Let's go to SQS plain. And yeah, we can create that. So let's just do PHP artisan make job, base handler job. Let's also do stripe handler job. Okay, these are not even jobs. So yeah, like if you follow documentation, it basically says to just create this and copy that. So it shouldn't really queue, shouldn't really do any of that. And I'll just clean up this. I'll just copy that their base handler. And, normally we probably don't want anything to hit the base handler. But yeah, okay. The way it works is basically you have an association here between a queue name and a handler. So I guess we could do something like queue name maps to type handler job. Now we can remove it. So this is a key value map of an SQS queue name and a handler. But before this will even work, I will need to specify our SQS plain driver in our queue.php. So let's go to queue.php, and here I will just paste this and update those values. So basically, we'll need SQS prefix here. This will be the default, queue. This, yeah, I would just set that to default and always specify the queue. Here we can do region. Sidecar access key and sidecar secret, which we know at this point. And I'll remove after the out. So don't even try sending anything there. All right. Now, if we do PHP artisan queue work SQS plain and specify a queue, so it's stripe, we can see that it worked. But it did not match because I did an oopsie here. So this should be like queue URL as the full thing, and then queue name we just had the full name, and we'll need to update our reference here to fq URL instead. So now if we run that again, we'll see no jobs, but if we run our beautiful Lambda again, we'll be able to see that it's actually executing stripe handler job instead of the base handler. Here we basically have the data as well. Oh, I'm updating the base handler. That makes sense. In our stripe handler job, if we var dump our data, send that again, you can see that it contains the actual payload that we have passed from our test. So if we adjust it so it's hello YouTube and send it, we are able to see that here as well. So now if our app goes down, so in a situation like this, and we get a couple of those callbacks, nothing will happen on the app end, but as soon as it goes live, we'll just process all of these jobs in no time. So that's all I wanted to show you. You can also, by the way, push events to SQS from that, since it will have the same formats, which is not Laravel. So that can also be nice. If you need to communicate between different services, you could use that for like a microservices, for example, to communicate between different services. If somebody feels like it and has more experience maintaining packages, feel free to clean up this mess. I will try to do something in the near future to make it more sane, because at the moment it really sucks. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to show you. So this allows you to have pretty much an infinite scale with your webhooks. I had to create a solution for this because my day job there is, and my solution initially wasn't that nice, but there is hundreds of thousands of callbacks that we're getting in a very short amount of time, and by creating this, you can very much easily remove the problem of handling that on the request time. So that's all I want to show you. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and if you did, please leave a like below, and let me know what do you want to see in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. See ya.